So, allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to dwell a few minutes on the introduction. Amartya Sen was born 75 years ago in Shantiniketan. In fact, the name Amartya was given to him by Rabindranath Tagore. He was educated in Vishwa Bharati University and Presidency College in Kolkata, and he earned his bachelor's, BA and PhD at Cambridge University, where a fellow student was a Sardarji named Manmohan Singh. Professor Sen, this is going to be a little bit, a few minutes of introduction, because remember I said we are not really economists, so we need to. In fact, you know, because of his friend and fellow student from Cambridge days, he is often asked, Professor Sen is often asked, what would you do, sir, if you were appointed as Prime Minister? And he said very promptly that, you know, remember this is the kind of question you get asked at the World Cup beauty contest, that what would you do if you were Prime Minister of India or President of India? So when he was asked a few years ago, what would you do if you were appointed Prime Minister of India, he said the very first thing he would do is submit his resignation. So when he got his PhD at Cambridge, he came back to India and he was appointed, believe it or not, as the head of the department, if IIT directors are here. At the age of 23, he became the head of the Department of Economics at, I think, Jadavpur University. And over the next, I guess, two decades, he taught at various places like MIT, Jadavpur, Delhi School of Economics, London School of Economics, and Oxford. He eventually, by the way, became a master of Trinity College at Cambridge, which is where he had got his BA. So he became a master in Cambridge. And since 2004, I believe, you've been back at Harvard University as university professor. So his primary residence is in Harvard, but he's traveling a lot. In fact, he spends a lot of time in India. So the key question sometimes people ask is, if your house is in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and you spend time in Shantiniketan, in Delhi, in Chennai now, and perhaps London, so the key question about your residence is, where is the dog? I think the dog is in Cambridge, maybe. So, of course, as you know, exactly 10 years ago, he was awarded the Nobel Prize for Economics. And nine years ago, he was awarded India's highest civilian award, the Bharat Ratna. Professor Sen is an economist and philosopher and has written more than 24 books, of which the two most recent ones are Identity and Violence and The Argumentative Indian. Professor Sen, by the way, IITians are real frontline brand ambassadors of your book, The Argumentative Indian. So, really. But however, I consider one of his most remarkable contributions has been in the production and nurturing of a gallery of doctoral students who are economists of great eminence themselves, people like Kaushik Basu and so on. So I want to just spend 2 more minutes on some of his key insights. His work is so expansive, it cuts across economics, philosophy, history, and so on. But some of the key insights, which actually have become conventional wisdom today, I just want to kind of recount some of them. Number one, and this has been now really, it's become conventional wisdom, and this was something I think you wrote 27 years ago, almost 30 years ago, that famines are not caused by a lack of food supply. Famines is not about shortage of food. It's actually about the lack of purchasing power. This was a key insight, and he's written extensively on it. Second insight is that it's not enough to have rights, meaning he introduced or talked about this concept of positive rights and negative rights. So it's not enough to have rights. It's what's the use of having a right to vote if you can't even reach the polling booth in a very trivial sense? Or what's the right of having freedom of speech if you don't have basic education? So he in fact introduced the concept that societies and governments have an obligation to provide a minimum capability to citizens or to its people so that they can enjoy rights. He also wrote a very provocative essay, I think in the New York Review of Books in 1990, on the 100 million missing women. He wasn't talking about IIT. He wrote, this was a very provocative book because, it was an essay. It's called The 100 Million Missing Women of Asia. And basically he was talking about the fact that gender inequality and gender discrimination had led to this situation where normally in developed countries like Scandinavian countries, you have women's longevity and mortality is much lower, but in India and countries like India or China, actually the sex ratio is the other way. He was also, another key contribution was he was the founder of the Human Development Report, which is actually a rival, if not in a more basic document than the definitive World Development Report published by the World Bank, which is all about numbers and number crunching about GDP and so on. But the Human Development Report focused on basic human development. You know, after doing all this work, of course, Professor Sen has been criticized both from the left and the right. The right-wing people think he's anti-market, and the left-wing guys think he's pro-globalization. So, of course, you know, he'll tell us where he stands, and as I said, he's of course been a staunch supporter of political freedoms. He's actually a trustee of an organization called Economists for Peace and Security. In fact, because of that, he's been called the conscience of his profession. And lastly, I believe you were in Delhi yesterday and so on. So when he was asked, how do you relax? Because you do all these things. I mean, it's amazing. Maybe there are two Amartya Sens. So he says to relax, he basically reads a lot, which he's doing now, and he likes to argue. So I think IITians have to stand up to that. Professor Sen, before you come in here, I know that you had a big celebration in New Delhi on your 75th birthday. So in our own way, we want to celebrate this birthday here. So I'm going to invite, I think, is she here? Roshni. Is Roshni here? She's here. Okay, she's the daughter of Raju Venkatraman, an IITM alumnus of 1981. So, Arjun.